I will call to order the December 1st, 2021 Gig Harbor Parks Commission meeting. We'll start with a roll call. If you just say here after you hear your name. Ben Coronado, Parks Commission Chair, here. Mary Barber, Vice Chair.
Here.
Anastasia Wright.
Here.
Roger Henderson.
Here.
Will Appleton.
Here.
And then we have Mayor Kit Kuhn.
Here.
And from Public Works Director Jeff Langhelm.
Here.
And Public Works Assistant Terry Garrison.
Here.
And our liaisons, we have City Council Liaison Spencer Ebersold.
Here.
And Arts Commission Liaison Lynn Stevenson.
Here.
All right. Well, happy to have everybody who's able to make it tonight. I know we have the mayor on the giving a presentation as well, so we'll make sure to get him up near the front of the agenda. I want to respect his time. But if we go ahead and start with the approval of the minutes from the November 3rd, 2021. I know the agenda says October 6th, but I got an email from Terry saying she corrected that. I did have one change. I think the diamond was a misspelling on Vicky Diamond's name. Other than that, I did not see anything else on there. It was just in one of the first ones. And unless there's anything else, there motion to approve the November 3rd, 2021 Parks Commission meeting minutes as amended.
So moved.
All right. There's a second from Will. All in
Second.
favor?
Yep.
Aye.
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 Any opposed? None? Okay, so passed. Okay, yeah, Mayor, we're gonna jump right into your presentation on this conservation property that you guys have been working hard on.
Great. Well, thank you. Gonna share my screen. Let's see. Can everyone see my kind of blank screen?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. Can everyone see this map?
There you go.
Yep.
Okay, well, we wanted to, I'm sure most of you have already heard about this because we've actually done this we presented this at a council meeting because we want public input, but we actually have a rare opportunity to purchase some land right next to the land that we're also in the process. So I'm going to show you another picture, but this is the parcel that we're talking about right here. So then if I get out of that. Let's see. Okay, so the land right now that we are that we've already pretty much in the process of purchasing is right here where my cursor is. So we've got the wastewater treatment plant and Donkey Park. And then we are in the process of purchasing right now, which is already approved and already finalized by the sellers, is 11.5 acres. And that's this shaded parcel. And that's $500,000. We're getting a $400,000 grant from Pierce County Land Conservation. And I'm sure you're well aware of all this. But we actually had two owners. There's two owners of this other parcel. And this other parcel is right here. It actually is 6 parcels and it actually goes right up to the Cushman Trail. So it's just across from the Mexican restaurant on Burnham Drive. So this is 23 acres of wooded forested land. It actually has Donkey Creek or North Creek running right through it. It also goes right up here where my cursor is, or actually more towards the bottom. It goes about 15 feet from the Cushman Trail. Now, this is a road, actually. So you can actually, there's actually a building called Asset Management right here on the, I guess on the south side of Burnham. And you access this yellow road, and it doesn't even look like a road at first. You just kind of walk to the side of their parking lot, and then it opens up to a road, and it actually crosses Donkey Creek, and it actually goes into this very large loop. It's about a 25-minute walk, depending on your speed. There's firs, cedar, probably a 150-year-old forest that's never been built on before. And so the owners want to build between 38 and 51 homes. And then, as you know, it will be, they'll actually probably build on about 10 acres of it, of the 23 acres because of the sensitive area. But as you've seen on the rest of Burnham Drive, it pretty much gets clear cut where they're going to build. And if you've seen the development, there's a good chance that the owners of this would sell it to D.R. Horton, they're just going to put close houses, and they'd rather not do that actually. So we've entered into an agreement with a purchase sale agreement to buy these 6 parcels in land conservation. So we really wouldn't do anything. We would make the trail just a little bit more accessible, make it so it hooks up to the Cushman Trail. But this is quite aggressive to do in 2 months because there are tax consequences for the owner to wait till next year with Governor Inslee's income tax laws that he put into effect. So they feel they've discounted it a bit for us. We're doing our due diligence of doing an appraisal and environmental phase 1. And next week, we should get the appraisal back. And the appraisal is going to be kind of rough because we're not going to do all the work for them like a geotech. If we do everything to figure out exactly what it's worth, now if they don't sell it to us, they have all that work done. So we're doing the best we can, but we'll get the appraisal next week. And then we'll sit down with the owners. We can't really pay more than appraised price. We have found how to pay for it. Well, we found that we have the money, and then there's different ways that the council can choose to tap into various funds if it's HBZ. Right now, the boundary lines are not HBZ. They're kind of go around this piece of property. So it might be something else, but the city's healthy to where we could purchase this. And we feel that it's just a golden opportunity that you're never going to get again. Once it's cut, once it's developed, you're never going to get this kind of forest again. So what is exciting to share with you right now is this 4.5-minute PowerPoint. Here's the bridge, which is actually container bottoms, steel container bottoms. And that's North Creek or Donkey Creek at the beginning. And this road has probably been here for 15 to 20 years. And Jeff or Spencer, if you want to ever comment anything, feel free to. This was a 25-minute video that I shortened to 4.5.
Maybe I'll just say that this, as you can kind of see, the terrain here is quite steep. It has significant grades that are close to 30–40% in some areas. It's got a lot of wetland on it, wetland buffer on it. And as you can see, just from the vegetation, it's in its pretty natural state. Yeah, it's quite a find. There are, like the mayor said, there's already trails on there, or paths on there that can easily be converted to trails. Some of them, as you can see, like they're very steep, but
yeah, this goes way down and then it comes right up there. So as Jeff said, it shows you how steep it is.
So Mayor Kuhn?
Yeah.
How much can you share with us where the city is right now in regards to purchasing this? We've only got about 30 days plus what's today, the 20.
It's the first.
Oh,
yeah.
First. Yeah. So we've only got a month to make till the end of the year. Is that even remotely possible given what has to be done?
Yes. So
okay.
Jeff, are we done with environmental phase 1?
No, we're supposed to get a final report, I think, early next week.
Okay, so I'll talk about that in a minute. This is the opening. This is the top of the road that we just saw. So as you can see, it's about 15 feet from the Cushman Trail. And as you know, when we were going to go behind the wastewater treatment plant to with the trail to reach up to the Cushman Trail, it was in excess of $100,000. This is already done, except for a little bit of work. And that shows some of the openings.
It is a most stunning piece of property, that's for sure.
It really is. So yeah, at the beginning, I'll answer those questions. And this is where you enter right here. And this is right across. Now, this kind of shows you what would happen in some ways. I mean, they're going to keep 10 acres of it, but as you can see, developers don't tend to retain trees anymore. Now, to me, this slide is quite important because I just want to show you how many trees are kind of vulnerable. If you look at can everyone see the cursor?
Yeah,
Okay, here's
Yeah.
Swiftwater School. This is going to be our sports complex for the city. Now, so some of these trees are going to go, and maybe some of these trees as well. Then this where up here, where my cursor is phase 2 of Heron's Key that they're going to build their second phase. So those trees will go. Eventually down the road, if we do the 3-phase of the sports complex, phase 1 being right here, phase 2 being the Little League field, phase 3 is all these trees. And I'm sure that these will be developed too up on the far corner. So my point is, this looks pretty neat right now for Gig Harbor, but I'm showing you that there's a lot of trees in this picture that are not going to be there. This property right here is owned by a church that's has it for sale. This is the fish food bank, and there's the Mexican restaurant, and then here's the property right here.
It's gorgeous.
yeah.
It really is.
So I'm assuming the city council has already approved moving ahead with the sale, right? This won't be coming to us in January.
Yes, the council has already okayed the purchase sale agreement. Just one sec. I guess I focus in on this because it does show the connection. And one thing, the land concert, we're actually, tomorrow night, we are actually giving a presentation, Robin and I, to Pierce County Conservation Advisory Board, and to try to sell them on this for a 1.1 million grant towards this forest. So there's a really good chance that we're going to get it, because they also gave money for the other project, and they also like when you join properties together. So that's a really good thing. So we're presenting that. There's a very good chance. I think they have to use the money by the end of the year. Is that correct? Is that correct, Jeff?
Oh, by the end of next year.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah,
think
but
we're
they
in
can
really good
reimburse us
position.
for it. The idea is that they would reimburse us if we purchased it. They could possibly reimburse us for it.
Right.
Purchase.
Now, on top of that, which kind of is good and bad, I'm trying to go to the Puyallup tribe, and I've already sent a letter to the council of the Puyallup tribe to ask the tribe to partner with us to purchase this property, and they would be partners. The problem, a little bit of a catch on that, right now it's stuck up with their lawyers looking at it and their fish board or whatever. But the problem with that is the Pierce County Land Conservation doesn't give grants to tribes. So if we got the money from the conservation, we can't get money, we can't be partners with the tribe. Now, we can always tell the tribe, can you give us much more money? So I haven't discounted that option. But the tribe is very slow to, I mean, I sent them a letter a month and a half ago and still no word. But Roger, to answer your question, we're working hard on this. The appraisal will be done the 6th of December. So that's next Monday. So we're hoping to get to look at the appraisal next week on like the 7th and 8th, sit down with the property owners and figure out in a way a negotiable price, which can't be too negotiable because we can't pay more than appraised value. And then we're having it on the council meeting on the 13th. Council has already approved it, but the last mayor got approval for the Masonic Temple from council, but then at the last minute, she didn't go back to them one final time. And I guess it doesn't look good when you don't do that. I'm not going to do that. So we will have a placeholder next week to go back to council for the December 13th. So that's why we'll leave it up to council next year to figure out where they're going to tap into the money. But we do have it in different areas right now.
Cool.
Other questions?
Would you mind going back to the map real quick just to see the adjoining properties or the adjacent properties rather?
Sure.
So is the idea to have Cushman access on this new property or the previous 11.5 acre property?
This one.
Okay, because of the existing trails system.
Yeah, I mean, Jeff, I mean, you could probably do both, but Jeff is, are those other lines actual trails?
No, the dotted lines you see in purple and green on the property to the south are proposed trails.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, and they would
So-
require a footbridge. But yeah, as the mayor showed, the trails that are on the proposed 6 parcels are pretty well established.
Yeah.
so
I mean,
that's
we-
great. Then looking forward, let's just say this happens. That gives the Parks Commission and the council and the city a vision of what we want in the next 5, 10, 15 years. Just imagine if you had this yellow trail as already exists with a new property, and then over the course of say 5 years, you do these other 2 trails. You've just made 35, almost 34 acres of beautiful trails, and it hooks up to the Cushman.
Right, natural trails downtown, near downtown, that'd be amazing.
Yeah. Well,
Sorry,
to
what,
me, it makes our place more desirable to live when you have things like this.
yeah. In particular, what is the property across the Cushman Trail? Is that part of the cemetery or is that?
It's steep.
Yeah, it's the cemetery is a little bit, yeah, some of it is the cemetery, some of it is just raw land that's been proposed to be residential housing.
I see.
And I'll give you a little insight. When I came into office, there was some developers from Seattle that owned all that land. It's 40 acres on the other side. And it was called Hidden, do you remember the name, Jeff? Hidden Acres or Hidden something? Anyway, they had a development agreement and they were going to build probably about 180 homes. And they were going to clear cut the whole thing. And they actually had a development agreement and it was all going to be terraced. It was concrete wall, house, concrete wall, house. The lots were 45 feet wide. And it was the whole, from the Cushman Trail all the way up to highway was going to be clear cut and just, they were all going to look down. It was going to be just, if you can imagine, just the ugliest thing. It was just going to be all gone. So they came to us and they said, we need longer. We need 5 more years of the development agreement. We're going to expire in 6 months. Would you allow it? And I said, what are you giving us to even do this development agreement? And they go, well, we're giving water and power and access to the trail. And I said, well, you have to already have water and power just to build homes. And the access to the trail is a benefit to your homes. No, we're not going to do it. You know, if you want to cut the project and by 2/3, sure, but we're not going to do it. So anyway, their development ran out, and actually they called me about 2 years ago and said, we're going to sell half the property to the cemetery, which I was thrilled with. We're going to sell half the property to the cemetery. The cemetery is going to leave a lot of it. And then they were going to take the other acres and they were going to make lot larger sized lots and not do what they were planning on doing. So, I mean, it was amazing seeing what could have happened. So I think I was thrilled that they're going to sell half of it, 20 acres of it, to the cemetery and build more desirable homes if they ever do it.
Yeah, I see Will's got a question, but real quick, Mayor, if you ever do talk to the cemetery owners, I would love Cushman access to and from the cemetery.
Okay.
It's a beautiful parcel and, you know, it's very park-like in there and, you know, not to have access right off the Cushman is unfortunate, but Will, go ahead with your question.
Well, one last thing on that. Spencer, you're there. Well, let's see. No, Jeff, would you, I think, you know, Spencer and I are, neither of us are going forward, but next year, but I think that the property owners of the cemetery are really nice. It's like two young men from a family, and they're really nice. And they want to do good things. So I think they would be very open to that. So Ben, if you would not forget that, and Katrina's worked with them a lot with planning. So if you would, maybe your group could talk about reaching out to Katrina and furthering that conversation. That you're good, since Spencer and I are not going into next year, we're going to need the park commission to be the liaison for the for community development.
Sounds good.
Great.
Thanks. Go ahead, Will.
Thanks, Chair. Good evening, Mayor. No, I think this is a great idea. I love it. My question is really maybe more for Jeff. Could you speak to, Jeff, if you have any thoughts on whether acquisition of this property then allows for leveraging funds for the removal of the downstream culvert going across Burnham? Ultimately, from a conservation standpoint, I mean, is there a story to be told, not only to encourage Pierce County to provide the necessary funding through the conservation group, but then to also be able to leverage future funding for possible removal or replacement of that?
We did with the 11.5 acres just to the south of this group of 6 parcels. We did tell that story of how that property could help leveraging funds. We continue to move forward with this property, these 6 properties and the parcels of the south, trying to submit a waiver of retroactivity with RCO so we can use the funds in the future, but I don't know how how that would allow us to leverage those funds directly associated with the culvert project for any federal funds.
Thank you.
Roger?
Sorry.
That little island of property immediately to the, I'll call it the east, where that little business is, do we know who owns that? It seems to entail a pretty significant chunk of North Creek. Is that, I don't know if that's one or more parcels, and it wasn't shown, but is that another possibility in the future?
Yes.
Okay, it's good.
And, you know, Robin's pretty good at bringing property towards us.
She is.
So I think she's already, if we get this one, I think so, you know, maybe Jeff and her can work on that.
Cool.
Okay, I wanted to share, if there's no more questions, the park commission was supportive of the Squababish tribe and the Tualacuff estuary. So I wanted to just kind of, I'm sure a lot of you probably have been down there, but if you haven't, I wanted to just share some of the the things that you supported. Number one is to show, let's see. Okay, this is, as you've seen, if you've walked it all downtown, there's a lot of blank maps, blank boards. The boards are being fixed. And when you go into where my cursor is, there's a little star right there. So here's the History Museum, and here's Austin Park. So right here is the star where this map is going to go. And this is going to be on one of the old reader boards. So we're just using the existing boards, so we didn't have to re-permit, and there was no need to. So this lets you actually see what you're walking into. And I was honored to have Terry Garrison and Mike Siemens do a lot of help with this. So we've got, you walk in here and you've got the voice box right here in the yellow, the audio post. And if you keep walking on the trail, you've got these concrete pylons. Here are 4 of them. And then here's the 5th. And those actually now have the stainless steel panels on them, which I'll show you in a moment. They're already there, and which you were very supportive of. Right over here on the point is where the tribal welcoming carving will go. And that's, if you have questions on that, I'm going to refer to Jeff, but we're working to get that all, completed as well. We have another map just like this that is going to go over here in Donkey Creek Park, because really there is no beginning or end of this trail. You don't know which way people are going to start. So we've got another map just like this, except the star is going to be in the other spot right over here. This even shows you Tom's sculpture with the fish, Torrenson, and the restrooms. So anyway, this is this map will go up. Any questions on this map before I go to the other pictures?
Now,
Okay.
is it my understanding that there's a kayak launch somewhere in this vicinity? Is there?
No, that's going to be over at Ansich Park or the boat shop.
Okay, so that's not a kayak launch anywhere in there?
Not really.
I've
Jeff
seen
would probably
people
discourage it.
informally launch kayaks.
Yeah, right out at the very end, next to the picnic table in Austin Park, as Roger mentioned, that people do launch kayaks on high tide. But if you get
Yeah.
out there at any time, if you've been there and you've seen, it's just mud, and not many people want to walk through mud to get to the water's edge.
So
Gotcha.
this is the sign that you help support that's up there now. So we've retained the old name as well as honored or restored the Squababish Lushootseed language in the Tualacuff estuary. And then we have the voice box. And if you haven't pushed the buttons, it's really interesting. The first button basically just describes how we got here, just very briefly, that this was the ancestral homelands of the Squababish people, a band of the Puyallup tribe. And this is all voice, this is all solar panel. So it works very well. And then the other 3 buttons actually has Amber from the tribe speaking, and she's actually pronouncing it so everyone can learn how to actually pronounce it. So it's a great voice box. Actually, I have to say, Lynn Stevenson did the graphics on this. The tribe helped supply the logo. Lynn Stevenson did the graphics. The Park Commission supported this. It takes everyone. Then the first panel is right here when you go into the park. And it does take about 20 minutes, 25 minutes to read these. So I'm not gonna, you can go read them yourself, but it says before Gig Harbor. Now these are 3/16 stainless steel, which is the least corrosive for salt water. These are 1/4 inch thick. They've got actually 8 bolts 4 on the corners and 3 more going down the sides. Their bolts are all invisible. Place in Auburn did the fabrication of them. They did a fantastic job, I felt. They're 40 inches long by about 15 inches tall. I believe that these concrete pylons on our property, but just to make sure, we actually got permission from the History Museum and from Wade Perot, just so that there's no question that we could put these panels if they're in right of ways. So we're gonna put a little better landing here so you can step right in front of it. We didn't want to put it right where you walk on the trail, because then you'd be right in the way if someone reads it. Actually, here you can see the other pylon that we're going to show in a second too. So on the other side of this pylon that I'm showing you is this panel. So the panel on the other side of this, which I should have mentioned, says the Swiftwater people. So on the opposite side of this says the Swiftwater people. And actually, it's kind of cool. I didn't mean to do this, but you can see the first panel in the shot. And then this panel says the Puyallup tribe. Now, these were written by Linda Pitcher with the help of Lita Dawn and with the tribe. We went through about, as you know, Parks Commission, we went through about a year of proofing to make this all possible. Then this one says after Medicine Creek, which is a treaty that happened. And then the last panel basically is up at the bridge saying the daylighting of Donkey Creek. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen. So it goes back to you, Ben. But you all were very supportive, and I want to thank you for your help in this. You were very supportive of this, and I wanted to, include you in this.
Great. Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate that. I really want to, say thank you, like genuinely, to all the great work you've done on the park system in your time in office. We recently completed the survey for the pros plan, and with like resounding results, how important parks were to members of the community and residents. It was like 90%, said that was one of the most important things of living here. And I think you've really done a lot of great things for the parks as mayor. So thank you.
Thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, you will be missed dearly. Thank you for sharing this information with us. And if anybody has any other questions, feel free to raise your hand, or otherwise we will be on our agenda there.
Great. Well, thank
All right,
you. And
I'll
I'll
see
stay
you.
for a few minutes and listen to you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks for your time tonight, Mayor.
Thank you.
Moving on to old business. We have the pros plan update and where we're at with that. We're moving along. I'm gonna hand this off to Mary. She's gonna start us off with where we're at. So I'll go ahead and leave that up to Mary if she wants to share a screen or anything like that, or.
I don't have anything that fancy to share.
Where's your PowerPoint?
Yeah, really. Actually, I have 150 slides that I'd like to present. No. So the first thing that the subcommittee has been talking a lot recently, and been working a lot recently. And the first thing that we wanted to do was let everyone know, I think that you know this, the mayor, I want to make sure you know too, our consultant is doing a fabulous job. The subcommittee, which is Roger, Ben, and I, there is no way that we would be where we are right now without Steve Dutt and his team at Conservation Techniques. There's just absolutely no way. We've done a lot of work and we've had a wonderful time doing it. We've had a lot of support from Jeff and Terry, but we could not have gotten a pros plan to where it is today without having a consultant in place. And they have been really great to work with. They've met all their deadlines, plus some, because we've kind of said, oh, hey, can we have this today? And they're always there. So we just kind of wanted to do a public thank you to Steve and his team at this point in the process. And the three of us have also been talking about how much fun we've had too. And each of us brings different skills to the party, and that makes our conversations even more fun. So at this point, all of you have received several pieces of the PROS plan as it's being developed that I'm hoping that you've all reviewed. And there are two items that we consider this group to have reviewed and I'm calling approved by this group. And that is the initial survey summary, which was the mailed survey, and also the web survey that we did, the online survey, early on in the process. That was our first outreach to the public to get their input. The second thing that you have are the summaries from the 4 stakeholder groups that we did earlier this summer. We discussed those at our last meeting. And so those are kind of put to bed as far as both of those items are being used in developing the plan, and also were used in creating the online open house. The summary of the open house is the document that you received, I believe, a couple weeks ago. And so for tonight's meeting, we wanted to talk about the open house summary and also a draft of the goals that were sent to you yesterday. So at this point, we're sharing the love tonight among the subcommittee members. So at this point, I'm turning it back to Ben, who's going to talk about the open house summary, and then Roger's going to talk about the goal document.
All right.
And Ben has 250 PowerPoint slides.
No, that's not true. It's that one. Okay. Hopefully there's not too much on my screen. Can we all see let me scroll up. So this is can you all see the open house summary?
Yep.
Okay. So this is the open house summary that Steve and his consulting group got back to us. We had 10 days worth of a digital open house in lieu of, having one at City Hall, considering the circumstances of COVID. And I think it actually turned out pretty good with over 200 responses over a 10-day window, considering if we were to have held it in City Hall or in any venue. I think typical show out's probably closer to 30 to 50 people. So I think we did quite well in that manner. Over a 10-day window. We did get it. So we took the opportunity to take what we heard from the surveys that we conducted earlier in the summer and kind of dive deeper into some of those responses that we heard, and to kind of reaffirm and get more detail exactly where people see, the future of the parks going, based on what is already in the pipeline and what's already existing in our inventory. That was one thing that we wanted to make sure is that, people we're aware that, hey, there's sports fields coming. There's so many things in our pipeline coming within the parks that people just aren't even aware of, honestly, in some manners. So we wanted to make sure that they knew about that and, go into more detail on what we heard from the open house summary, So what people wanted were, walking, running, waterfront access, community events. Those are all things that we heard in the open house survey. So we dived deeper a little bit more into that and, kind of did a prioritization. It's like, okay, how many actual people, if, given 4 or 5 of these options, where would they land on that? So obviously the trails, not obviously, but the trails were at the forefront, tennis and pickleball courts, water splash pads, pool, water facilities, off-leash dog area was up there. And then more playgrounds, building out existing facilities. Maintenance was a big one. People wanted, to take care of what was already in place. That makes a lot of sense. The other one, let's see. We asked people where they would like the Cushman Trail to connect to, neighborhoods, existing city facilities, other parks, schools, commercial areas. There was a lot of input in we gave people an opportunity to just say where they wanted it. And so in the bottom half of this summary is everybody's responses, and it was open-ended. So there's a lot of responses where people wanted to see trails going and what they wanted to see done with that. But another big one was conservation land and trails through wooded areas and natural areas. And so I think that really goes in line with what the mayor is proposing, and that whole 6 parcel property and what's along there on Burnham. So then we outlined kind of where our gaps were in our inventory within the city limits. And so this map kind of outlines that, where, some of the gaps are within a half-mile walking distance to our existing parks, and where there's opportunity, where there's holes where it's not close for someone to get to a park within a half a mile. And that kind of outlined that. So overall, we felt like the summary kind of kept in line with what we heard from the previous surveys. And we didn't see anything too much out of line. In this particular survey, there was, like I said, open-ended question, and we heard a lot of mention about pickleball courts, and those are coming hopefully within the sports complex in the near future. But I mean, that's can be one user group getting a hold of the survey, and it just kind of goes viral within a group, and you get a large resounding response for one particular type of use. What we did see was a continuing trend to request focus on trails and preserving green space in our community. That doesn't mean people don't want the sport courts and playgrounds we already have in the plans. It just means that going forward, the focus is a bit different once these projects are complete. We need to remember that the PROS plan is a look forward at what else we need, not a review of approved projects that might be, revisited or coming down the pipeline. Support for playgrounds and playfields is obviously still important. And yeah, so that was kind of the synopsis of the open house that we conducted. Still a lot of response, over 200 respondents, not nearly the 1,300 we have, but that is typical of ongoing surveys where you kind of have the diminishing return. I think it's, respondent burnout, I think is what it's called, or something like that. So I think all in all, our community outreach throughout this entire process has been really, really good with, community engagement. I think we had well over 1,500 responses in total. So that's pretty impressive. Yeah, and then we just had general demographic questions down here at the bottom. And then, like I said, the bottom 10 is just, people's candid responses. So if you get the opportunity and you want to, see what people are generally like asking for, it's all right here. 10 pages of what people want. So then on that note, I'll hand it over to Roger for the next part of the PROS plan that we've been working on. We just reviewed the goals and policy document.
Okay, thank you, Ben.
So one thing, Ben, could
Can
you
I-
send that? Could you send this to council and myself? Because also, like, December 13th, when we have to hopefully vote on this, I know we've seen part of this, but it would refresh seeing how many people want walking trails. So if
Okay.
Jeff or Ben could send this on to council and myself, that would be great.
I think, Ben, if, Roger, before you start, I wanted to add one thing too. I just want to make sure that everyone's clear too, that the open house really wasn't a survey per se. We used SurveyMonkey, which is a survey tool, but it was designed to be more like an open house, trying to make it as interactive as you could during COVID. So we really can't use, that makes that 203, it really does make the 203 really a huge number, because it wasn't the same kind of thing. It wasn't asking the same kinds of questions. So I want to make sure that we're not comparing two surveys equally, because the second one really isn't a survey. If I put on my research hat.
And
Got it.
I just want to say for the mayor and everyone that, just a reminder, we're having a study session with the Parks Commission and City Council on December 9th. And a lot of this information will be provided
Mhm.
Friday with the packet that's going to go out.
That's right. Great. Thank you.
Do you need it before Friday, Mayor?
No, I forgot about that study session next week. So that's
Okay.
perfect. That will accomplish. I'm really glad that, I think you're the one that requested that, which is great. So thank you.
All right, Roger, ready for any other questions before I hand it off to Roger then? No, okay, Roger, go ahead.
On. Okay, so Folks, if you want to look at what was sent to you, you're basically looking at a chapter 4 of the PROS plan update entitled Goals and Policies. Might help if you have it on your screen while I'm chatting away. That way you're not focused and looking at me. First of all, goals came from our public process, again, from all the work that was done. You just took my screen away. There we go. From all the work that was done in our surveys, we developed, at least in this particular instance, 9 goals. So if you look through, you'll see 9 goals. The first one is the develop a quality diversified recreation system that provides for all age and interest groups. We certainly heard that a lot. And so again, a goal is just a general statement. It's not a specific, go out and build pickleball courts or go out and extend the Cushman Trail Phase 5 project. A goal is a much more general goal. So the goals generally won't change unless there's a large change over time in the community values. And maybe Ben and Mary having a little bit more history here. Did we see a change in goals over the 2016 PROS plan?
The very slight, if there are really any, I mean, it's editing, I would say, more than anything.
Okay, yeah, that was my understanding too. So we edited the goals to kind of bring them up to date, but radical changes or complete loss of goals or saying we're not going to do this just didn't happen.
None of that.
So which is good. If you look, let's just look at goal 1 as an example. Right under goal 1, you'll see policies. Well, policies they're a little bit more specific, kind of measurable statements that describe a means to achieving the stated goal. So for instance, goal 1, which is, develop a quality diversified recreation system. Well, policy, there's lots of things that you could do to develop a diversified recreation system. So for instance, pursue acquisition and development of sites. There's a lot more verbiage after that, but that's a policy. Again, that's not a specific thing that says, go buy this property over here at 10679 Sundial Lane. That's something else. So each one of these goals has a set of pretty well fleshed out policies that'll help guide the city and via the PROS plan to maintaining and keeping our recreation system pretty darn awesome. The third thing, which you don't see on this page, are recommendations. Those are actually the specific actions that are intended to implement the policies, and the policies then help achieve the goal. The reason you don't see them here is the recommendations are underdeveloped, and you'll see them coming up in another chapter called the needs assessment and capital planning chapters of the plan. So right now what you're looking at is just the goals and the policies. There will be another chapter. I'm not exactly sure what chapter number that is, but that'll have more specific items and actions that we would do. My suspicion is there would be something in there like acquire natural, undeveloped properties for protection of the environment. And that may be perhaps in support of goal 2, open space preservation and wildlife resources. So again, we've got goals, policies, and recommendations. And right now you're just looking at goals and policies. So the subcommittee worked, as Mary said, pretty darn closely with Conservation Tech and Steve Duh. And we have a lot of comments on it. We're still working with them just to refine this a little bit more. And so quite frankly, none of us have seen much else in the PROS plan update, which that'll be revealed, I guess, as it becomes developed. So are there any questions on the goals or policies?
Yeah, Will, go
Just-
ahead.
Yeah, thank you. So I like what I've seen. I like what I've reviewed. I think they're well laid out and well structured and well thought out, actually. in my simplistic mind, one of the questions I asked myself was, is goal number one more important than goal number three? And nowhere is it stated that the goals are just, there's no hierarchy here, that they're all equally weighted, or is that the case? Do we want to or is that just intuitively obvious?
I'm not aware that we had a ranking on these goals or priority. They're just, since they're all somewhat separate, you have to list them some way. So Ben or
Right.
Mary, correct me if I'm wrong, but these are not in any order of priority.
There is no hierarchy, I believe. I think it's just, we ordered them in the best flow that we felt there was.
That's what I was gonna say, is we went by kind of, these are the, it seemed to flow really well the way that we, at least we thought, the way that they are right now. And I think we did change the order from the 2016 plan because we thought it flowed better.
Do we think that we should provide a statement in there just saying that they're not in any order of precedence, priority, or ranking?
We could add that in as our comments up at the very start of the goals and policies chapter.
Yeah, it might be helpful for people who just aren't familiar with how
Yeah.
they were derived in the document, to think you step in and you go, goal number one, well, that clearly must be the most important, recreational facilities. I disagree with that, and so, okay, thank you. I like what I'm seeing though.
Ben, can you add that to the comments you're sending to Steve?
Got it.
I'll have to say that we also tried to simplify it. There were a lot of sentences that were, I guess we all called them mouthfuls. Like, well, it sounds kind of good, but what's that mean? So we actually tried to simplify it so it meant more, and so anybody that reading this won't get lost in I guess a word jungle. So we did the best we could.
Yeah, there were a few places where you could tell that multiple people had edited the document over the years.
Yeah. And one thing you'll see on, let's see, goal number 2, we'll change that Austin Estuary Park to a picture of the new sign that's out there right now. So that'll be a little bit more. Actually, it might be wise. What would be really cool is, instead of this picture, the one the mayor showed with the map and has Austin Park and Twellicut Estuary, and that might not be a bad picture for right at the beginning of this.
Yeah, Mayor, could you send us those pictures if you're still there?
Sure. Why, how about Terry? She has copies of them, and then
Yeah.
she's part of your group. So is that okay,
Okay.
Terry?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Terry could send them directly to Steve.
Yeah, I can do that.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thanks.
sir.
Terry actually
Okay.
has like a library of all this too. So if you need
Cool.
some, you can also, but any other pictures you need, let me know.
All right, thank you. And, there were some other issues that we're still going to work through with Steve. There's on goal 4, there were some issues about urban growth areas. There's some issues near the end, some statements that were made about what we call it, unincorporated service area. So we're gonna work with Steve and Jeff to kind of define those and make sure that we know what the definition means, or take it out.
So thank you all. I have another Zoom actually, but I want to thank you.
All right. Well,
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Good night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Yeah, I think overall this is looking really good. Yeah, like Roger had mentioned, we still have a few last minute edits to do. So if you want to provide input, anybody on the commission, feel free to send them our way or to Terry, and she'll make sure we get them. If you want to review it in the next couple of days.
Actually, I think we should do that by end of day tomorrow at the latest, since the packet's going to council on Friday.
Right.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
if there,
I-
oh, sorry, go ahead, Jeff.
Well, I was gonna say, Steve is supposed to provide me final drafts of items tomorrow, end of business, and then I'm gonna comment on them Thursday night, Friday morning, and then he's going to supply a final draft to the city clerk on Friday, so that can be distributed to council for the December 9th study session.
Okay.
So that's the schedule.
Okay. So I think that kind of coincides with the next part, Mary, the work session and timeline, if you want to go ahead and pick up
Yeah.
on that.
So, so as I think everyone knows, and the mayor mentioned, we do, or Jeff mentioned, we have a work session, joint work session with council next Thursday at 3 o'clock. And this is really our opportunity to get input from them on what we've done to create the pros plan to this point. So this is their opportunity, both the old council and the new council members, to provide input on where we're going before we get into approval processes and that type of thing. So we'll do that on the 9th, and then in January, I'm sure the commission will be looking at more drafts of more chapters and that type of thing. And we'll also begin some of the 60-day comment period cutoffs, those kinds of things, so that we can meet the final deadline in the middle to end of March. We're planning to present to council on February 28th for the first reading to council. And the second reading to council will be on March 14th, hoping again that we'll be submitting to the RCO by March 15th so that we meet the RCO's deadline. So I guess one of the big things today is if we have something that we're sending out for input and approvals, it may be off of our meeting schedule, and pay attention and reply. No. I'm the organizer in the group, in case you can't tell.
No, she calls me at midnight.
I do not. I text you at midnight. You could put your phone on do not disturb. No. So does anybody have any questions on where we are at this point, or?
How about it, Lynn?
Oh,
Mary, yeah, you said RCO. Can you tell me what RCO is?
Jesus, I'm drawing a total blank. Jeff, help me out here.
Recreation Conservation Office.
Yeah.
It's a state
Right.
agency.
state agency.
Supplies significant funding for parks.
So,
Recreation Conservation.
Office.
Thank you.
let me see, I had a comment. Oh, Lynn, I don't know, you haven't really seen this, and maybe you haven't had a chance to look at this particular one, but we did mention the Arts Commission in goal number 8. Can you, what would be nice is, can you look at that and let us know if your hair stands on end or if you think we're stepping out of line? We just wanted to make a link, so there's some kind of a link in here between the Parks Commission and the Arts Commission, because many of the things that we're looking at would benefit the Arts Commission, I think vice versa. So
Yeah.
you could just pay some attention to goal 8.
And one of
Okay.
the reasons that we have that in there too, Lynn, is for funding.
Yeah,
Because if we take it out, it means we can't get funding for any, we can't reflect the city's identity by incorporating art, history, and, so that's why those those policy statements are in there, so that it gives us the ability to continue to work closely together.
Yeah, that sounds great. Where do I get a copy of this?
You should have
It
gotten
will be in the
it with,
agenda packet.
actually, you know what? These goal statements were in a separate email from Terry.
I can send it to her.
oh, okay, thank you, Terry.
Okay. I have this whole pros plan breakdown, but not the one you.
Oh, you have the open house results, not the,
Yeah,
Okay, yeah.
I have
Gotcha.
the open house results. It was the other one here somewhere?
no, it wasn't my mistake.
okay.
Terry's gonna send it to your email. It sounds
Okay,
like.
thank you.
So just make a note, you can look at all the other goals, but goal 8 specifically mentions the Art Commission, and so see if we're on the right track.
Okay,
And I
great.
think
thanks.
those are directly from the 2016 pros plan also.
Hmm.
We didn't change them.
And
We
if
may
you
have
see
cleaned up
something-
language, but that's it.
Okay,
But, you know, if you see something that you want to beef up, then put it in there. We'll take a quick look at it. But like Jeff said, we've got clock's ticking.
Yeah,
well,
we,
yeah. So my next arts commission isn't until January, but you would need some feedback by
Tomorrow.
Darn,
She heard that.
No.
Tomorrow by 7 a.m.
welcome to the process.
I've got different date. I see December 9th. I have different dates written down. I was like, oh, which one of these is my deadline? But it's like literally tomorrow, right?
Tomorrow
Yeah,
would
it's-
be the
it's short.
deadline if we needed to change them before they go to the work session next week.
Yeah.
It's not the deadline for final for the pros plan.
Wow. Okay.
And I guess I would also add that this doesn't supersede anything going in the comprehensive plan either. It's kind of a separate deal.
Right. Okay.
But though I must say this pros plan will be referenced in the city's comp plan. And I'm working with Community Development Director Knudsen to try and have this be essentially the de facto chapter on parks in the comp plan. So that there's not a parks chapter and then a pros plan.
Oh, that's good.
We do the same thing for transportation. The transportation chapter is essentially the transportation element. And we want to do the same thing for this pros plan and for the 3 utility plans that we have.
Well, sorry,
I guess
Lynn, you didn't expect to get any work out of it.
No, I
Now
didn't.
you'll get
I didn't think I'd have homework.
Work at the next Arts Commission meeting, okay?
I'm feeling very empowered right now. So can you send me that tonight? Then, yeah, okay.
I just sent it to you. You should have it.
Okay, thank you.
There you go.
And now, Mary and Roger, remind me, are we going to talk about the gig on the go in this meeting, or are we going to leave that for the city council meeting?
I think you've already broached the subject here, Chair Coronado.
Okay, so the city has a active transportation plan already. We are hopeful to get that incorporated into the Parks and Recreation open space plan in some capacity, to reflect the amount of walkability and trail access that we've heard in the outreach. It's a very strong document. It has a lot of information and a lot of ideas in it. And it was completed, Jeff, remind me, is it 2016 or 2018?
2018.
2018.
So it's relatively recent. It has, a good amount of applicability to it. And so I don't know if that's as like an appendix item, or if we can sample from it and use some language and ideas, or if I don't know the process. So I think I might need help on that, Jeff, if we were to try and do that.
I think what we hope to do at the council at the work session on Wednesday is basically kind of put it on the table that we want to incorporate as much of the active transportation plan into the pros plan as possible, and just kind of drop the bomb and see what happens. And then we'll go from there. And the new council will approve the pros plan. So
Yeah, the gig on the go, the active transportation plan, is a sub-document of the transportation element of the city's comp plan. So I think that you're on the right path of just weaving all of this together that says this active transportation requires these park amenities to be developed. And so they have to move forward comprehensively, cohesively together.
Yeah, and
Okay.
I don't want to make too much work for Steve, because I don't want to drop this on him and say, hey, take out all these neat elements and put them in the plan. So I think Jeff's, maybe if I'm understanding you correctly, Jeff, a reference to it, and maybe under the trails goal perhaps, or something like that, would say one policy would be use of the, whatever the official term is, we call it gig on the go, but maybe there's a more official title.
Yeah, the formal title is active transportation plan.
Okay, so we would reference that that provides the link. And then Jeff, do you think we need it as an appendix or it's already in the comprehensive plan?
It's already in the comprehensive plan. I think it's just as referenced.
Okay.
So make sure,
I think that
And we
would be
sent
good.
it to Steve too.
Oh, what's that?
We sent it to Steve. The
Okay,
link
good.
to it.
All right. So I think that's the best we can do given the time. And I think that makes the most sense because if we reference too much in our document and maybe that transportation plan gets updated, then you have to go back and change the pros plan. So I think referencing it and then letting that document stand, and that can evolve as it needs to be without any difficulties in the pros plan.
I can almost guarantee that the transportation element and the active transportation plan will be updated before the next pros plan is updated, if my quick math is correct.
Oh, yeah, that'll be, okay. All right, so I think that works.
yeah, so just as a reference item in the trails goal.
Yeah,
We-
whatever,
In the policy.
yeah, it would be in the policy. Let me see, it's not goal 9, it's not goal 8, not goal 7.
3.
It looks like,
3.
yeah, 3. Yeah, we'll just add that as, I don't know whether that would be under trail systems, maybe trail systems or trail development and amenities. I don't know. There's actually two parts in there. Well, we'll let Steve figure it out.
You know what? Is it already in there? Policy 3.6 is support the implementation of pedestrian and bicycle improvements in the city's transportation plan. Do we
Have
need
you-
to be more specific than that?
You could call out the active transportation plan or just
Yeah.
say-
Yeah, let's call it out. I think that would be wise.
At the end of the goal for number 3, I think it does. But it's called the non-motorized transportation plan.
But the one we were looking at was that non-motorized? That was, the gig on the go wasn't just
It was an active transportation plan is really what it was
Yeah.
called.
I think we should call it by its proper name.
yeah,
If you could include that in your comments too, Ben, your list is getting longer.
It is. Ooh,
That's what he
Okay.
gets, Roger, for not doing it first or second, right?
right?
yeah, there you go, there you go. There was a question we had for you, Jeff. If you look at, and maybe you don't have this up again, goal 3, and then the policy 3.11, it says the city's adopted wayfinding plan. Do we have a adopted wayfinding plan? Go down to 311.
Yeah, I'm looking at it now. I
Right
don't know,
there.
Terry might be better. I don't think we have an adopted wayfinding plan. I mean, we have a lot of maps. Terry,
Yeah,
do you
but-
know of any formal?
No, we don't have any kind of an adopted plan.
Okay, so I suspect this was a cut and paste from another project and it got left in there. So Ben,
Adding it.
this will be an easy thing. Are you able to edit my comment in that PDF?
I don't have that one pulled up or downloaded.
Okay. All right. Or
But you
just
should-
maybe
you
add a
should be
quick,
able to add to your comment
okay, yeah. Just
or add a
the
comment below
that-
it.
Yeah, we don't have a adopted wayfinding plan. Which is why many people have lost their way.
So
Hopefully
mean,
they'll
if you-
find it.
if you wanted to edit that, I would tend to disagree slightly. I think the city does have wayfinding. Maybe it doesn't.
We have
a plan.
wayfinding, we
It
have
doesn't have a-
wayfinding signs.
Yeah,
I
Right,
think we
so
just delete the word adopted.
I think you can just say coordinates with the city's streetscape, furniture standards, and wayfinding. I mean, there is kind of, if you think about it, I mean, a lot of the signs, there's a uniform wayfinding approach that the city uses. So do you want it to be in accordance with that? So I don't think you have to say that it's in accordance with the plan. You can just say that it aligns with the current wayfinding used by the city.
Maybe the wayfinding standards?
There you go. I think however you'd want to describe that, Jeff.
Yeah, no, something, just the key is to take out adopted and reference existing wayfinding standards plan.
Okay,
or,
well, we don't have a plan, just standards.
Right.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Well, thank you.
And like we said, if anybody else has any other edits or comments, feel free to spend your extra time tonight doing those. All right. Any other comments on that at the moment? I'm gonna skip back to the agenda.
Lynn has her hand up.
Lynn
Yeah.
has her hand.
Yeah, so I was able to adjust this, it's such a very brief goal 8. Yeah,
It is.
for the arts, so yeah, that's helpful because I was just able to read through it. I think it sounds fabulous. Yeah,
Okay,
really good. You know, I'll read it again and if I think of anything else, but I just read through it a couple times. I think it sounds wonderful. Thank you.
all right. Good enough, thank you.
Perfect.
All right, where'd my agenda go? All right, so any new business? I mean, Lynn's here, that's new. Lynn, we're gonna give you committee reports, an opportunity to kind of, we'll flush things out there. I think that's where we're gonna have kind of your placeholder be is the committee reports for any information. So we're gonna jump into the park upstate or any other new business? I don't think there was. No, okay, so the parks update report with Jeff.
Sure, thank you. First of all, I want to talk about something that actually isn't in your report, but it's or in your update, but you've all been asking about it for quite a while, Parks Manager. If you didn't hear, the city has now formally announced we have a new Parks Manager. His name is Matthew Keogh. He was previously working on staff for the city years ago, I think 2007 or 2008, working as an associate planner back then. He's done a variety of things in his career since, and he's back. His first official day, I was told by Tony this afternoon, is going to be December 27th.
27th?
December 27th. Yep. And again, he's reporting to the city administrator. He's not reporting to me anymore. So I won't have much involvement in his orientation, just as a coworker. So I'm guessing though, I was going to connect with him. I'm going to be gone out of the office the week of the 27th. But as soon as I get back, or might send him an email right before then or while I'm away, just saying, hey, need to make sure it's on your calendar. And Terry, maybe as we get closer to the end of the year, if we get a calendar set up for him, we put these Parks Commission meetings on there, because I'll be at the January Parks Commission meeting, but I'll be handing it off to Matthew at that meeting. Spencer.
Yeah, Jeff, did you say his name was Mark Kehoe?
Matt.
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 And you know, we're working with him in the past. He was fine with Matt, though he officially, I think, goes by Matthew. So you hear me say both. I can't remember which he would prefer in the public eye. But
Matthew Kehoe, thank you.
yes.
So where does then parks fit in the general organizational structure of the city?
Well, Parks Capital and Parks Operations remains in Public Works.
Okay,
Parks Development / Planning is going to be directly under the city administrator.
okay,
And so, for better or for worse, you guys have had me an engineer for a little over a year, and in the past on and off. But you're probably going to hear more of a focus leading the Parks Commission from your staff representative on planning items, probably a little bit less on detailed capital issues and operational issues. So it's a balance.
well, we aren't holding that against you that you're an engineer, Jeff.
At least one of you is.
Yeah, I was gonna
Dude,
say,
what am I
don't speak
saying?
for the whole group, Roger.
Yeah, no, hopefully Will would do the same.
So Jeff, question. Say Matthew, I mean, I don't want to even think this. What happens if there's a gap in a parks manager again? Who would we revert to?
I don't know. Good question. I hope not. I hope there won't be.
I don't want to think about that either, but I'm just like, ugh. Okay, I'll take an I don't know.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to move on from Parks Manager on this. Is any other questions on Parks Manager? Yeah. So Terry, once again, provided a great recent update to all of our parks. And so I just want to highlight a couple of them and see if there's any questions. And when I looked at this real quick, they're our waterfront parks, almost all of them are Ansage. So Ansage Park Community Paddler Stock. Contractor is fabricating a lot of the items that are going to go into that. Just had a meeting today with the contractor. We're now down to weekly meetings. They may be mobilizing the first week of January and doing a lot of work related to removing piling, removing the existing float system, driving new piling, and then coming back and right before the end of January, first part of February, actually installing the gangway, installing the float system. Their suppliers a little behind on getting the fabrication going for the gangway and the float systems, but they're still on board. They still have that February 15th deadline for a construction window that's allowed by Department of Fish and Wildlife and the federal agencies. So still on track to meet all of that.
Question real quick.
Yes.
If they're gonna start removing the floats and everything in the old gangway, they still have to provide access to the private dock. I don't remember the name of that dock, but how are they
Yeah,
gonna
that's the Jerkovich's family float system. Yeah. When we did the previous upland work, the city negotiated a temporary construction easement across to gain access to the waterward float systems by crossing over with a temporary, essentially gangway between Lucas Landing, which is the marina immediately to the east, over to the Jerkoviches. So we've got that worked out again. They're going to be able to use the Lucas Landing parking, use the Lucas Landing pier gangway, and water and electricity. So they'll be fully connected during the construction and when the gangway and the floats are missing.
Cool. And so currently the demolition of that old derelict pier is still up in the air.
It is. That was my next topic. I just received, right before this meeting started, an email from Department of Fish and Wildlife with a memorandum of understanding that I'm going to be presenting to council at the 13th, at their meeting on the 13th. So, and then as an aside, on the 13th also, we're going to be opening bids and looking to award a construction contract to demolish the dilapidated pier on that site at the same time.
So it sounds like it was a positive memorandum of understanding.
I haven't read it yet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, literally right as I was logging into this meeting, my screen popped up. It was from Department of Fish and Wildlife, said, here it is.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of concern that from the city council that they want an ironclad agreement from the feds, but
Yeah,
tough to get.
it is. And I think the same will be held true for the Department of Fish and Wildlife. They'll try and use mitigation where possible. No guarantees.
Got it.
Yeah. So that's a quick update. We're calling it the Ansage Park or the Jerkovich Pier Advanced Mitigation. The intent is to make sure that we never forget that that's advanced mitigation for commercial fishing float system on the same site at Ansage Park. So that's that project. And then also at Ansage Park, the human powered watercraft storage design and public access. In case you hadn't been aware, Terry has been temporarily reassigned to go into the operations shop and do some backfilling of work that was previously completed by another public works assistant, Lisa Crassus, because Lisa is doing our utility billing. And so we have a void in all the duties that Terry had been helping with, except for this one. And so that project's been assigned now to another engineering administrative person, but we are moving forward. We're getting ready to go out to bid for purchasing the materials for the storage racks. We just also, at the last council meeting, had adopted the rate structure the city will be implementing. And then we've got to work with our operations group and administrative support to actually get our lottery together sometime in January. I don't think that we'll have those racks in place until March 1st, which is about the time where we'll probably get a final certificate of occupancy for the community paddler stock. So they'll probably coincide about the same time.
That'll be good.
Yep. Okay, so I'm moving away from Ansich, but not too far. Austin Honoring Project. You saw on the mayor's map, that's there. He mentioned it a little bit in his presentation. We are now submitting all of the necessary documents to Department of Archaeology and Historic Preservation, DAP, so that they can approve our foundation design for the art base. And then once they approve it, they said that they have up to 60 days by state law to review and comment on that. We've been already having, the city's been having direct discussions with the Puyallup tribe representatives on this topic. And so I think it'll hopefully go through a lot faster. But the goal, and the Puyallup tribe said they don't want to do any ceremonies, ribbon cutting or anything on this artwork until we get into springtime. They said they just don't do those things in the December, January, February timeframe. They March at the soonest. So I think that'll work out well because we have to go out to construct or get a construction contractor in there to put the foundation together. So, but for all intents and purposes, the land use application is complete, been approved. And then we're just going to be waiting for DAP, Department of Archaeology and Historic Preservation, to give their approval. And then we'll be under construction. So again, springtime.
You already have a scope written for the construction contractor?
Yeah, it's pretty simple. It's essentially a 2-page set of plans, one with conditions and one with actual details, construction details. So if you'd like to see it, I'm happy to share it with you. It's not final yet, but it's in draft form.
That's all right.
So that's the updates I had. Just wanted to focus on those projects, but all the updates are in there. But happy to answer any questions if you have any others on any other projects we've got going.
Tree is up, looks good. It's not decorated yet though, is it?
They just started this week. Yeah, they had their June 5th. I saw some lights on it this afternoon, but they'll be ready to go. And just a reminder, it is not on Saturday the 4th like it is most years. It's on Sunday the 5th. So it's not on Saturday, it is on Sunday.
Gotcha. Good to know. I don't have anything. Anybody else have any questions?
We'll have a question.
Just a quick question. Thank you. The bathroom at Grandview, the forest there is still closed. Those facilities are, what's going on with that, I guess? That's my question.
No, good question. I don't know. That was closed quite a while ago. I thought it had been open since then. They had quite a bit of damage in there.
Yeah,
what's that?
It still has a placard on the outside. It's been tagged as, damaged or closed due to vandalism.
Yeah.
I just didn't know whether they were just making repairs and it was continually vandalized, or it just hasn't been repaired because it's been many months.
Yeah.
And what was that, Will? I missed what it was.
It's the restroom facility at Grandview
Okay.
Park. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, it'd be great if we're open. And if it's continually getting vandalized, it'd be good to know that too.
Yeah, I'll check with operations superintendent and be able to give you a reply on that.
Thank you.
And I also just want to call out that at Wilkinson Farm Park, they did a great job clearing out some of the underbrush of the ivy. Public Works did. They really addressed a lot of that big problem that was down under the holly, those holly trees. So
And
thank
did
you to
I hear
them.
they were going to trim the holly trees and then that would be distributed? Or did I make that up? Do you know, Jeff or Terry?
They usually do. I don't know when they have it planned, but I can find out and let everybody know.
Okay.
You all know the irony of removing the ivy as an invasive, don't you? That the holly itself is an invasive.
Yeah,
But the ivy's not 100 years old
Understood.
yet.
Oh, one real quick question, Jeff, and I think I brought it up a long time ago. Shaw Park, did you ever send anybody from operations out there to look at some trees that looked like they were falling down? They were that little strip between the park and Heron's Key. There's,
It's a mess.
yeah, it's unsightly, and I think there's a couple of
yeah,
semi-grown pines that are kind of not straight.
yeah. Yeah, I know that Ken's been struggling right now. We're down 5 people in operations.
Ooh.
So it's taken a hit, especially with all the storms, but all
Are they
4 of them-
permanently down 5? I mean, this isn't just sick 5, this is,
No, this is, yeah, 5, I think there's 4 vacancies. We had, well, as of last week, we had 2 on light duty. And I think we had 4 vacancies. One it's getting off light duty. And then, but we have 2 new positions in the budget. So if we can get back up to speed, get all those positions filled, then I think that'll be our ability to get caught up on some things.
well, I guess we'll see what the new council can do.
Yeah.
All right. Any other
Alright.
questions?
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff. We're gonna hop into the committee reports. So assuming there's nothing from Leafland Trails Coalition, Roger.
No, I haven't.
All right, we're gonna, oh, shoot. Okay, so we'll find someone to touch base with them here once we start going forward without you. But this is also where I want to give an opportunity for Lynn and Anastasia, who's going to be the representative to the Arts Commission. I think Anastasia is going to start attending the Arts Commission meetings in January and go forward with the quarterly reports for us, as we had mentioned in our last meeting. But Lynn's going to be joining us. I think she said as much as possible is when she's going to be joining us. So Lynn, this is going to be the opportunity for you to kind of let us know what you guys got going on in your commission, and what kind of projects you're working on, and see if there's any support we can lend you, or cross-pollination, I think is what Charlie called it.
Yeah. Yeah, great. I actually hadn't prepared anything, but I was looking over my Arts Commission notes, and yeah, there's several things. Well, first, I think I just want to thank you guys officially for supporting our efforts to create a separate element into the comprehensive plan. The Arts Commission has been working on that for at least the last 3 years. It's been a pretty tedious process, but it looks like we're so close to the finish line. And I was really happy to, when Charlie said that, we had your support on that. So let's see, what did I want to mention? A few of our projects. The Harbor Arbor Art Project, where we put a call out for artists or carvers to embellish some of the snags in parks. So we have a local brilliant carver, Jeff Stamadowski, was selected for our next carving, which is in Granview Forest. Are you guys aware of this? I don't know. It's in a park, and okay, yeah. And he is supposed to complete that. He has until December 13th. He went out and inspected the first snag that we chose for this location, for this round. And it was completely deteriorated inside. You can't tell from the outside. So luckily he went out there before he set up all his scaffolding and got ready to carve. He went out there and inspected it, and it wasn't in any condition for carving. So, but he also was nice enough to just notice right there in that same area, there's a huge section of tree trunk that was probably put there, I'm guessing, after a lot of those trees were taken out for the root rot. He said there's this large log right there, and I can use that and carve into that. So the city has approved for him to create his art on that log, and it'll be well, this is only our third Arbor Art installment, but it'll be the first horizontal piece that's being done. So that'll be sometime before December 13th. So I think I'll get in touch with Jeff and just remind him of that. Originally I had hoped that we could make it a sort of a spread the word, make it a little public event, but he requested not to have an audience for this. Not officially. There will be people walking by, I'm sure, but so hopefully that will be happening soon. Also, oh, you know what? And speaking of Arbor Art and the Shaw Park, you guys were just talking about some trees at Shaw Park. I can't visualize where you're talking about, but
They're in the green belt, kind of in between Heron's Key and there, but there is some down below near the conservation or the protected area
Yeah.
that, like outside the protected area, that, you know, have some good possibilities we recognized.
so just to remind you, keep that in mind when those like conversations about trees come up, or whether they're dangerous trees or they're in the way of something. If they have some potential to be part of the Arbor Art project, we would really appreciate that, because right now all of our art sites are confined to Grandview Forest simply because of the abundance of snags that are available there, and not really in any other places that we found.
Actually, there is a spot at Shaw Park that might, not in the park itself, but in the down below the park, there's a trail area and that kind of thing. It looks like there could be some snags in that part of the park. I think, Ben, we mentioned it to Charlie, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
It's on
Um,
city-owned property too.
It's city.
oh yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Is there, sorry, Will, you had your hand up. Go ahead.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I had a really quick question on the Arbor Art. I guess, is it okay to call it chainsaw art? I mean, it's really cool if I'm understanding.
No.
It is, but okay.
It's
Um,
because the only reason I say that is because chainsaw art and carving is like the obvious expression of art in these snags, but ideally we would love to have people come up with other ideas. So I don't know if that's ever going to happen, but we want them creatively embellished versus carved.
Right. No, I think the work out there is amazing. So love it. And probably going to steal the idea for the city of SeaTac actually. But one thing I have noticed in Grandview Forest is I walk through that very frequently, is that there's really no, I just happened by the art out there. There's no directional signs. There's no, like, I just happened upon it. Is there an effort in place or moving forward of just something subtle that says, you know, that points people to it so they can observe it, or no? Is it
Well,
just kind of,
there's not an effort to do that, but the part of the fun of it is art that you discover. One thing it is lacking is some kind of placard to identify what in the heck is this when you do come upon it. I've started out with a subcommittee of about 4 of us and lost everybody, including Sarah McDaniel and Marlene Drucker, and they're gone. And my arts commission cohort, he's gone. So I need to probably reassemble some kind of subcommittee to talk about things like that.
so a real quick last thought on that. Love the idea of finding it, because when I found them, it was amazing, like an Easter egg. So very cool. But it might serve to have at some point entrance to the park, just something that indicates that they're there, and there's this many of them, and feel free to go find them. You know, not necessarily to point out where they are, but just that they exist.
Right.
Would be great. So yeah, thank you.
That's a very fun idea. Hadn't thought about it. But yeah, good.
It looks like Jeff's got a question for you as well, or
Yeah, just a question, and Lynn, I don't know if you know if I should ask Josh Stecker, but earlier this year, before Molly Towsley retired, I know our GIS guru, Mike Simmons, was putting together an entire GIS map layer of art throughout the city. And once the GIS goes public, or we could just produce maps that identify it. Is that still proceeding? It was an art inventory, I believe is what it was termed.
Yeah. I don't know what happened to that.
Okay,
I don't, because that's a staff member, right? That had agreed to do that.
Yes.
Oh gosh, I don't think that's come up in the last couple meetings. So I don't know what's up with that.
okay. Okay.
Great
Well,
idea, though.
that's something, and maybe pointing toward where Will was going, at least it is something that we, the city, were looking to put on our website that provided the general public locations of
Yeah.
art in the city.
Yeah, okay. I'll make a note about that.
And Lynn, for potential snags, is there a specific species that you guys kind to stick to or anything like that, or just whatever's big and carvable?
Yeah, at this point, we can't be too choosy. I mean, I think the carvers ideally like to work with cedar, but what are the trees, Jeff, what are the trees that have, is it fir trees that we have mostly the issues with that have been tough?
Yes, Douglas fir are the ones that are susceptible to laminated root rot, and that's the issue we had in Grandview Forest that caused so many of them to have to be removed, dropped.
Yeah, those aren't the most desirable to be carved, but and of course, part of our philosophy is we're not going to select trees that are perfectly healthy and cut them down to snag size. So it has to be something that sort of creates a natural opportunity.
I'm glad the one on the ground worked out well. I mean, as an alternative, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like this, the Harbor art. It's
Great.
really cool. Yeah.
Great. I'm so glad. Thank you.
Yeah.
So what, are you guys aware that in 2022, we will be putting out a call for artists to create and install some art in the sidewalk as part of the Harbor View roundabout development?
Down there in front of the boat shop area? Is that
Right, in that
Okay.
area, there's gonna be a designated 10-foot section of sidewalk that, we'll put a call for artists out to see what ideas they can come up with.
okay? And then, so is the Arts Commission the one that ultimately decides?
Yes,
Okay.
we do, we suggest to the council, right? So we're
Right.
not all powerful, but we will choose an artist and then present to council for approval, yeah.
Gotcha.
And the other thing I thought I would mention is starting at our next meeting, January 12th, we'll be discussing our 2022 grant program, Creative Endeavor grant programs. And those projects often involve parks. Like this year we had a grant recipient do the gnomes away from home, and a lot of those gnomes were placed in city parks. And the poetry walk that's down at Donkey Creek area, that was a grant recipient. So there's a lot of crossover between what's going on in the Arts Commission, because so much of it affects parks. And is there anything else? Oh no, I think that's all I've got right now as far as updating what
Awesome.
we're up to. Yeah.
Well, thanks. Appreciate it. Certainly do.
Thank you.
I think there's a lot of possibilities, I think, here for collaboration and support. So I think it's gonna go really well moving forward, I think. And then I also wanted to, Spencer, I wanted to call you out specifically. We certainly appreciate your time, that you've devoted to us on the Parks Commission, and, the voice you've provided for us to the council. We've enjoyed your company, and, I hope the feeling's mutual. And I know you've always been a great, public servant. And so, always willing to go the extra mile. So thank you for being a part of this.
Well, thank you, Ben, and thank you, Parks Commission. It's been my pleasure to serve with you folks. I think that having a liaison was a great idea, and I was grateful for the opportunity to serve in that capacity. And I hope that the next person that takes on the role enjoys it as much as I have. So I think you guys are all doing a great job. And I know that the advice and the counsel that you've given the council has always been appreciated. And hopefully you feel that you've all been listened to and respected, because I know that your voice and your opinions really matter and really help the council make informed decisions.
Awesome. Nice words, Spencer. Thank you.
Thank you, Spencer.
Okay, I got 2 public comments to read off real quick, unless there's anybody from, let's see, that would like to
I
participate.
believe they're both attending, so.
Attendees, I see one hand up in there. It looks like Georgina.
Georgina.
Yeah, do you want to make her a presenter or a panelist? And Georgina, when you get on to the panelists, if you just want to say your name and address for the public record. And then go ahead and I'll give you about 3 minutes there. Let's see.
Am I there?
Yep, there you go, Georgina. Hi.
Hi. I don't really need to go through this whole letter. It was just to give some feedback to you from a member of the public who'd taken a close look at the surveys. First, I wanted to say that I thought it was a great survey. I mean, I thought the 3 components worked really well. I really liked the 3rd one, the online open house. It really came at it from a different perspective and it allowed, you know, a little bit more feedback for the public to explain a little more. I thought there was a lot that was revealing that came out in the 3rd component. And I had been in another city lived in another city in Washington, and they did a survey. They didn't do the stakeholders part, which I thought was important too. And they also did the virtual open house, they called it. And it was a city of 50,000. And they did a little better than you, but given the fact they were a city of 50,000, I mean, I thought the results here were excellent, just excellent. So let's see. I really enjoyed the mayor's presentation, and I'm really encouraged that the city's purchasing land to conserve. Really pleased about that. I lost connectivity, unfortunately, for quite some time, so I only saw part of the goals draft presentation. Is there a way for the public to get a draft of that? Is that going to be released to the public? Because I'm very interested in that. So
It will, yeah, it'll be released probably next week as part of the Council Parks Commission joint meeting.
oh, great. Okay, so it'll be part of the agenda then.
Yeah.
So I can download it. Okay, great. And then let's see. The only other thing I wanted to touch on then is Shore Park. I heard you mentioning about it. Roger referenced it, and it's. I don't see that it's going to be a quick fix. I mean, trees are dying, and they're not that old, so unfortunately, they aren't going to help the art, the arbor art. But they that whole area with the shrubs and the trees. And I know someone in a presentation on the dog park said nothing will grow in Shore Park. Well, it's not that so much. Where the border with Heron's Key is, you'll see right across the border that all those trees are doing great. So it's all about how they're planted. But the big problem is it doesn't seem to have been graded, and there's not graded properly, and there's not adequate drainage. So that part, I think, really needs to be fixed, no matter what the goals are for its use. And it's a shame because I think there's a lot of potential with that park, and people use it to get from A to B. It's the path that they use. They use the park itself, but in using that path, it is like muck. You can't walk through it, and if you try to walk on the lawn, then it's also saturated. But the same thing happens with the irrigation. So once we get through with all the rain, then come May or so, then the irrigation needs to be fixed. And I know that there can be controllers, I believe. You'd know more about this, Jeff, than I do. But that sense when the ground is getting dry and the sprinklers can go on automatically then, instead of going on every day. But the problem is not going to be resolved even once we get to the summer, because the irrigation is such a problem. So I just wanted to mention that. And that was it. I can't hear you now.
Will you name and address real quick for the record?
Oh, Georgina Armstrong, 4340 Borgen Boulevard. Gig Harbor.
Thanks so much for your time tonight, Georgina. Appreciate you attending the meeting.
Okay, you're welcome.
Sorry, that was your timer. And then I think we also had one other person. Was it Anne Alness attending? Anne, did you want to read your public comment? Or if you would prefer not to, I would be happy to read it for you.
She's muted.
All right. Let's give her one more second here, and if not, I'll just read it. Okay. And I'm gonna go ahead and read your comment. Ann sent us, Ann lives at 4340 Borgen Boulevard, and Ann wrote in, as a retired primary school educator, I would love to see more opportunities for children of all ages to explore with sight, sound, touch, and smell nature through the trails, paths, displays, and designated viewing stations for water and wood creatures. As a resident of Heron's Key, I see activity at the musical stations and walking the pond, and I envision the long view. A community garden section would offer families a place to grow a garden with their children, and most likely our senior citizens at Heron's Key would join in with their knowledge and skill. Signed, Ann Alness from Heron's Key. Thank you for writing in tonight, Ann. Appreciate your comments about the Heron's Key area and looks like Shaw Park area. We'll take that in consideration. Other than that, the only other thing I have to mention is that there is, we're open for applications for the Parks Commission right now. So if anybody has anybody they know of that lives within city limits or the UGA, I think we're all city limits people at this point, right? So we have an opening for a UGA person as well. If you know anybody that doesn't live right inside the city limits, we're taking applications till I think the 3rd. So it's just a couple more days. And other than that, I don't have anything. Mary, you have anything else, or Jeff? Nope. All right. On that note, I will make a motion to adjourn the meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
Roger seconds. All in favor? Aye. All right, you guys, next meeting is January 5th. Have a good night.
Okay,
Meeting's adjourned.
public, but the joint work session next week.
Work session. My apologies. You're right.
Great.
You're right, Mary. Bye, you guys. Have a good night.
Thanks, everyone.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.